Avrutam jnana edena jnanino nityavairina kamarubena kaunteya dushpurena janaja. Word by word meaning. Avrutam, covered. Jnanam, pure consciousness. Edena, by this. Jnanina, of the knower. Nityavairina, by the eternal enemy. Kamarubena, in the form of lust. Kaunteya, O son of Kundi. Dushpirena, never to be satisfied. Analena, by the fire. Cha, also. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki. Thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Purport. It is said in the Manusmriti that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment, just as fire is never extinguished by a constant supply of fuel. In the material world, the center of all activities is sex, and thus this material world is called Maidunya Agara, or the shackles of sex life. In the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of the material existence of a living entity. Therefore, this lust is the symbol of ignorance by which the living entity is kept within the material world. While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalagaya Chakshurunmilidam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sopatantikam Vande Aham Sri Gurum Sri Udapada Kamalam Sri Rupam Sarvajadam Sadvaidam Savadudam Parijana Sahidam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishaganidamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpade Gobesha Gopika Kanda Radha Kanda Namastude Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radha Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanja Kalpada Rubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Jidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are discussing about Karma Yoga, verse number 39. So what was the reason Krishna disclosed Karma Yoga? We will look into that first, then we will get into the today's session. Today's verse. So in the previous chapter, Krishna had explained Buddhi Yoga. Krishna was trying to establish the superiority of Nishkama Karma Yoga. But Arjuna thought that Buddhi Yoga is renouncing the action. So he thought it is inaction or inertia. Being in a secluded place, following Krishna consciousness is the Buddhi Yoga. That is what is misunderstanding. So that is the reason Krishna explained in detail Karma Yoga. So in his confusion, he asked Krishna, you are explaining to me Buddhi Yoga, at the same time you are asking me to fight. So that, that created a confusion in Arjuna. In his confusion he said, I am bewildered by your equivocal statements. I am completely bewildered. I am totally bewildered by your equivocal statement. Please tell me what is good for me. So that was the reason Karma Yoga was explained. Now after that, Krishna explained in detail the Karma Yoga. In 3.9, Krishna is talking about Nishkama Karma Yoga is better than Jnana Yoga. And then 10 to 16, Krishna is talking about Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga. And in 17 to 35, Krishna is talking about Nishkama Karma Yoga to set the right example. And 36 to 43, Krishna is talking about conquering lust, the greatest enemy, which is the subject matter of today's discussion. So what was the question of Arjuna? O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? So that was the question of Arjuna. So what was the answer given by Krishna? Lust is the culprit. Krishna said lust is the culprit. So, but the living entity, by nature we know that living entity is pure, it is spiritual, it is free from all kind of contamination. So one may have a question, what Arjuna is talking about? So Arjuna is talking about the perverted nature of the living entity. So what is the constitutional position of the living entity? Jivere Suruba Haya Krishna era Nitya-dāsa. That is the constitutional position of the living entity. So jivas have some kind of independence, right? They have some independence. They are the part and parcel of Krishna. Mame vamsho jivaloke jiva buddha sanatana. They are the part and parcel of Krishna. So they have some kind of independence as well. So what happens is, when they misuse their independence, their constitutional position, which is rendering service to the Supreme Lord, has been transformed into sense enjoyment. So that is the reason they are impelled to commit sin. So this all we have seen already, very well explained by Shivagana Prabhuji, Asimananda Prabhuji and Murali Prabhuji as well in the previous classes. But just to get a connection, I started from the beginning. So lust is the reason. Lust is the reason for the living entity to commit sinful activity. Now, so lust is very powerful, right? Lust is very strong, very powerful. We have seen so many examples which is presented by senior devotees. There are so many instances in our Puranas as well where many determined sages are, victimized by lust. If you take an example of Vishwamitra, Vishwamitra was doing penance and austerities years and years. What happens? In front of the alluring beauty of Managa, he surrendered to Managa. He was victimized. Similarly, we have Pururava. That example also we have. So lust is very powerful, very strong. It is very difficult to overcome lust. Once Vyasadeva, Krishna himself, Vyasadeva was instructing his disciples about the power of lust. He was saying his devotees, his disciples, lust is very powerful, has to be very careful. It may attack you anytime. You have to be very cautious, very vigilant. But one of the disciple, his name is Jaimini. Jaimini said, Gurudev, don't worry about us. We are all brahmacharis. We have good control over our senses. No need to talk about lust to us. But Vasudeva said, no my dear, you have to be very careful. It can attack you anytime. It can haunt you anytime. You have to be very cautious, very careful. Because it is the greatest enemy of jnanis. You have to be very cautious. But still, Jaimini said, Gurudev, we all are brahmacharis. We know how to deal with lust. Don't worry about us. So Vyasadeva said, okay, but I am telling you again and again, it is very powerful. Anyway, I am going for a pilgrimage, you take care of yourself. So Vyasadeva went for a pilgrimage. After a few days, what happened? There was a heavy rain, very torrential rain. Jaimini was sitting in front of his hut. He saw a lady standing under a tree to protect herself from a rain. So Jaimini thought, let me go and help her. She's exposed to the rain, so let me go and help her. So Jaimini approached her. So Jaimini, when he approached, the lady said, say, you are a brahmachari. You should not deal with a woman. You should not associate with a woman. Jaimini said, no, I am completely controlled. I am fully sense controlled. You don't need to worry about me. You come. I will protect you. So Jaimini took the lady to the hut. So Jaimini said, you do one thing, you sleep inside, I will stay outside. So Jaimini was now staying outside and the lady was sleeping inside. After a while, Jaimini got a craving inside to enjoy the lady. He knocked at the door and said, I am getting cold because of the blowing wind and the heavy rain. Could you please allow me to sleep inside? So lady said, okay, carry on, no worries. So Jaimini decided to sleep inside. After a while, he again got a craving to embrace the lady. And he started even embracing the lady. So what happened? While embracing, he felt that the lady is muscular and she has a beard as well. Then to his surprise, he looked at the lady again. He saw that the lady is transformed to Vyasadeva. Lady is transformed to Vyasadeva. So Jaimini was crying and pleading to Vyasadeva for forgiveness. He said, I thought I conquered lust. I thought my senses are under control. But now I realize that lust is so powerful, so strong. It is very difficult to deal with lust. So, the lust is very, very, very powerful. We must be very careful while dealing with lust. So, how the lust overcome the consciousness of a devotee? This all has been very well explained by our senior devotees, but I just wanted to, touch all these points once again. So, the lust actually, it is a product of mode of passion, right? Mode of passion. So when lust is not satisfied, what happens? It is turned to anger, and finally it is leading to illusion. And what happens consequently? Eventually it will increase the term of material existence. That is the consequence of lust. So we will see the degree of lust as well, how it overcomes the consciousness of living entities. So lust covered by the consciousness of human is compared to fire covered by smoke, and their degree of lust is slight and the chances of overcome is maximum. Similarly, the consciousness of the animals which is covered by lust is compared to the mirror covered by lust. Covered by dust. Covered by dust. And embryo covered by worm is compared to the consciousness of the trees. It is the degree of lust is intense and the chances of overcome is very minimum. That is what is explained in, I think, 3.37. So, we'll now come to the today's verse. I think the heading is wrong. Degrees of lust I wrote there. It is wrong. So, what is mentioned in today's purport? It is said that in the Manusmriti, lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment. Just as fire is never extinguished by a constant supply of fuel. In the material world, the center of all activities is sex. And thus, this material world is called Maidunya Agara, or the shackle of sex life. In the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of the material existence of a living entity. Therefore, this lust is the symbol of ignorance by which the living entity is kept within the material world. While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. So that is what I mentioned here. So here Srila Prabhupada very beautifully described about the lust and its consequences. So lust is compared to shackles of sex life. So finally it leads to shackles of sex life. So those who are indulging in sex life is Srila Prabhupada, in another article, Srila Prabhupada is compared those who are indulging in sex is to a camel. Camel, what it does actually, its favorite food is thorny twigs. Huh? Cactus. Tony takes. Yeah, cactus. Yeah. So what happens actually when it eats, its tongue gets cut and then the blood oozes out. So, but it believes that it is very tasty. It is eating its own blood. It is eating its own blood. But it thinks that it is very tasty. Similarly, those who are indulging in sex, actually they are tasting their own blood. But they think that it is very good, very, enjoyable. So, in fact, what we are doing, we are chewing the chewed. Those who are indulging in the sex life, they are actually chewing the chewed. They have been doing the same process for many years. So they are chewing the chewed. So what happens when we violate any rules in this material world? We will be jailed, right? Or we will be fined at least. Similarly, those who violate the rules of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Those who disobey or disobedient to the rules of the Lord are shackled by sex life. That is what is happening here. So, the more we indulge in material pleasure, what will happen? Our term of material existence will be increased or prolonged. That is what is happening. But we don't realize it. Generally, people won't realize it. So, it's like a prison house. Instead of going back to Godhead, we are increasing our life in this material world. That is what is happening. But a devotee must be very careful. He should not prolong his life in the material world. He has to endeavor to go back to Godhead. That should be the aim of a devotee. Devotee should not ignore all such petty weakness of the heart for the sake of higher taste. For the sake of higher taste. Param drishta nivartade. For the higher taste, devotee has to ignore all such kind of petty weakness of the heart. Because, lust is very, very powerful. It can even, what you can say, conquer devotees who are so determined. So, devotee should be very careful. Devotee has to engage his senses all the time in devotional services. By that way, he can overcome the lust. So, Krishna has said in 2.29, I think. I don't remember exactly the verse number, 2.29, I think. Yadada, yad karoshi, yad asnasi, yaj hujosh, 9.27, yeah, 9.27. Yad karoshi, yad asnasi, yaj hujoshi, dadasi yad tabasyasya kaudeya, tad kurusha madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kundi, as an offering to me. So whatever you do, whatever you offer, whatever austerity you do, offer to me. By that way, you can come to me. That is what Krishna said it in 9.27, right? 9.27. So devotee, to overcome the lust and its impact, devotee must engage in devotional services completely. So that is the way only we can overcome the lust. Once Srila Prabhupada was asked by a devotee, Srila Prabhupada asked by a devotee, what is the way I can tackle the lust? Prabhupada said, you follow my instruction. You follow my instruction and you engage in devotional service. You can, not only you can kick on the face of the lust, but you can even kick on the father and grandfather of the lust. That is what Srila Prabhupada explained to that devotee. So that is the only way we can overcome lust. We have to fully engage in devotional service. Then only we can overcome the lust. So what happens actually when we completely engage our senses in devotional service? We are rendering service to the Lord, right? The master of the senses. Rishigena, Rishigeshaya Sevanam. We are performing our all devotional activities for the master of our senses, the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. That is what we are doing. So by that way we can overcome lust. Another example given by Srila Prabhupada is about the Chadaka bird. The Chadaka bird doesn't take water from the ground. It flies high in the sky for the pure rainwater, risking its life, because sometimes there will be a thunderbolt. It can affect the Chadaka bird, but still it doesn't mind risking its life. It go up and take the rainwater. Doesn't want the contaminated water. So similarly, the devotee must abandon all such petty weakness of the heart for higher taste, for what you can say, for the higher taste. We have to ignore all such kind of things. Once Maya Devi tried to challenge Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, he was a great devotee, so determined. So Maya Devi approached him to victimize. But Haridas Thakur easily passed the test. How did he pass the test? He was completely engaged in devotional service, chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He never influenced by the challenges which is posed by Maya Devi. He easily overcome the test. That should be the mood of a devotee. We have to engage fully in devotional service. That is the only way we can overcome the lust. So basically, the lust finally it leads to our longevity in the material world. That is what is happening. Eventually, one will be continuing in this material world, getting into sense enjoyment. That is what is described here in the verses. So we have to engage in devotional service. We have to spend our time chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So by that we can overcome by victimizing by lust. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. This very important point you have discussed, especially the story of Vyasadeva. One thing is we cannot be complacent thinking that we are devotees, so you will not attack us. So it is said that Prabhupada said, if you are not afraid of Maya, that means you are already in Maya. So that is one thing. So it is always, we have to be very careful.
Yeah.
And always stay under the protection of the senior devotees, Krishna,
Yeah.
Guru, instruction. And wonderfully explained with the stories and some analogies. And it's a very, very important subject.
Yeah.
Not only for devotees, for everyone. Because everyone, at one stage or other can be victimized with. I think it's a very important knowledge.
Yeah.
That everybody should be aware. So that their life is protected, not going into wrong path. In that way, I think it's a very important message. I have to explain whatever in the purport you explained with the relevant examples.
Thank you.
So hopefully things should be very clear. And it is not a one-day exercise.
Yeah.
It takes time.
And you have very clearly, very well explained in last, class, how the sense enjoyment, whether the sense enjoyment can be satisfied with the support of a video, a monkey video. We have seen that. Even after supplying so many things, monkey is not satisfied. Monkey was running after again and again for more things. So you have very well explained that.
That is the nature of our mind.
Nature of mind, yeah.
Never fed, never satisfied.
Never, yeah.
So it's a very important point. Any doubts you have? So we should not feel like, oh, it's very heavy. But on the process, Krishna will help to give strength. That's why we are chanting. So as Prabhupada said, if you follow the instructions, then Krishna will give the help to come over, easily cross over. Devi Esha Gunamayi, Amamaya Pratya, Mamevaya Prapatyante, Maya Mittam Taradite. Krishna gives that assurance. This is very difficult, but at the same time, if anybody will attempt to surrender, then they will easily get the strength to cross over that. So that hope is always there. That's why we are practicing this devotional service. And we should know these are the threats we have, our challenges we have while we are progressing in the spiritual path. Any questions? Devotees have any questions? And Prabhu very explained nicely important key points on this purport. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, sir. What is dharma lust?
What is?
Dharma lust.
Karma. Dharma lust. Dharma lust.
Sex life or desires as approved by Vedas.
Okay.
That Lord has told no.
Yes.
Sex life which is not like Kamosni.
According to the religious text, revealed scriptures, that is actually dharma.
Yeah.
Like we say that it is for procreation purpose, it is not dharma. But if it is for recreation, it is dharma.
Yeah. Prabhupada has said one of the article that for begetting the Krishna conscious children, we can have it. But if you are running after the sex, then we will be entangled. We will be entangled.
It is like you can say fixed.
We should not be a grihamedi. We should be a grihastha. Restricted life. We should keep the Krishna at the center of our all activities. A limited engagement in sex is okay. More than that, it is not allowed by the Vedas and all. Scriptures. Yes.
Everything there is important regulation is there. The scriptures are saying. So without that, we become like animals. Because animals don't have any regulation.
Yes. They can even have the
instinct.
Yes.
They act by instinct.
They can even have the sex in open places, right? Because they don't have any restrictions. So that is something.
Thank you. Any more questions anybody have? Krishna and then something Lokapala is discussing. Krishna point.
Hare Krishna.
This is not a question, just a realization. It is a very sensible subject. These are blessed, and also this beautifully explained what is table color.
Okay.
And the degree levels of test, 3 levels, how it is covering.
Yeah.
This part first, and also how to overcome this one, and which level it is affecting us. So this is also beautifully explained.
Yeah. Thank you.
So actually this subject, when non-devotee they are discussing, it goes some other way.
Yeah.
As a devotees, we are taking as a spiritual part, and these 3 levels is how to overcome. Is today beautifully explained, especially this chapter, this series of this karma, this how is affecting them and then evolution. So this is the consequence of this other little existence. Beautifully explained. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.